After last week's heart-pounding, action-filled episode, it was natural for episode 6 of The Acolyte to slow down, allowing us to delve into the new dynamics introduced in episode 5. However, the outcome was a mixed bag, with some frustrating elements in a couple of the stories. One narrative stood out, offering a fresh perspective on a Sith, or whatever label the character Qimir prefers, tempting someone to the dark side. On a planet reminiscent of Luke Skywalker's future home, Ahch-To, from the sequel trilogy, we witnessed intriguing interactions between Osha and Qimir. Qimir presented his case for why his path, rather than the Jedi's, is superior. He emphasized a recurring theme in The Acolyte, pointing out to Osha that the Jedi claim their way is the only way to access the Force. This belief leads those who leave the Order, like Osha, to think they lose their connection to the Force. Is the dark side merely a simplistic, dismissive label the Jedi use for anyone accessing the Force differently? This idea opens up intriguing possibilities. Osha reflects that Qimir's teachings about harnessing emotions like anger and fear to use the Force align with what she's been taught is the dark side. But is that label too simplistic, or, as Qimir calls it, just semantics? The witches of Brendok might have used the Force similarly without seeming evil in the way Sith typically are. This ongoing theme remains one of the best parts of The Acolyte, and Osha's gradual acceptance of Qimir's ideas builds well throughout the episode. In a recent interview, showrunner Leslie Headland mentioned that Obi-Wan's description of Darth Vader being seduced by the dark side always resonated with her, and this is evident here. The Last Jedi had a notable flirtatious element between Rey and Kylo Ren, which is expanded upon in this episode. Qimir and Osha are constantly in each other's presence, including a scene where she sees him naked while he swims, adding a layer of intimacy. This interaction might lead Osha to follow Qimir's path, similar to how I wished Rey had gone with Kylo Ren in The Last Jedi, opening up exciting new directions. The reveal that Qimir's Cortosis helmet acts as a sensory deprivation device, allowing him to fully trust the Force in battle, was a brilliant touch. The final scene, with Osha donning the helmet and hearing her heavy breathing, evoking Darth Vader, was both unsubtle and awesome. Qimir's mention of seeking the power of two has significant implications, particularly referencing the Sith rule of two, a master and an apprentice. It's unclear how much Qimir knows about the Sith's past rules, but he might be looking for an apprentice, because that's the tradition. Another possibility is that he's aware of the concept of a Force dyad and seeks someone to form that bond with. When he found Osha in episode 5, he touched her wound as if to heal it. This week, she was bandaged, suggesting he doesn't have that ability yet. But Qimir might believe Osha is the person with whom he can forge this bond, enhancing their power together. If the entire episode focused solely on Osha and Qimir's dynamic, it would have been excellent. Unfortunately, other storylines were less compelling. The scenes with Sol and May, with May disguised as Osha, were frustrating. Sol's repeated attempts to explain to the Jedi on Coruscant what happened to his team, only to be interrupted, felt overdone. Simply stating communications are down would suffice. The circular moments, with Basil constantly suspecting something off with May and then attacking her, felt slapstick and dumb. May's lack of concern about her cover being blown, stopping to reset Pip before chatting with Sol, was also frustrating. Meanwhile, the Jedi on Coruscant, led by Vernestra, attempting to figure out what happened to Sol, felt stretched out. A strong idea, Sol potentially being set up as the scapegoat, was poorly told initially. However, there's still time in the season for this to develop. Sol's big revelation to May about what happened on Brendok might also set him up as the fall guy. The penultimate episode, directed by Kaganata, likely will flash back to that fateful night. Several Jedi traveled to Kofar with Vernestra, but Taisai Loa, Yord's Padawan, remains forgotten since the series began. It's unclear if she will be mentioned again. Qimir lived on a planet labeled Unknown Planet, clearly evoking Ahch-To. The new little creatures on the planet added a fun element, especially when they froze as Osha walked by. The visual quality in early episodes of The Acolyte was weak, but the shots on probably Ahch-To were cinematic and impressive, especially when Osha discovered her new environment. Balancing real-world echoes in Star Wars can be tricky. May factory resetting Pip felt a bit too modern, though this universe has previously incorporated similar elements, like a 1950s-style diner on Coruscant. In the same episode where Vernestra uses her light whip for the first time, we also see Qimir's whip, suggesting Vernestra might become more significant in the season's end, connecting to the High Republic books and comics. In real life, Manny Jacinto is about a decade older than Amandla Stenberg. Unless Qimir's falling out with the Jedi happened when he was much younger, there likely would have been some crossover with Osha on Coruscant. She doesn't recognize him, and he implies it happened long ago, suggesting he might be older than he appears. This could be due to being a different alien species or his specific uses of the Force. Some criticized that Sol and the Jedi should have sensed Qimir was Sithish beforehand, but in the prequels, the Jedi were unaware of Darth Sidious right in front of him. Sol himself was angry at not sensing it earlier, resonating with those critics. Conclusion. Episode 6 of The Acolyte explored the new pairings of Osha and Qimir and Sol and Osha, with the dark side winning in entertainment. Qimir's case and Osha's intriguing response stood out, while Sol and Osha's storyline was more frustrating. Next week's episode promises to reveal the long-awaited details of what happened on Brendok.